Okay, and we're recording, I assume. All right.
You can only assume.
Inauspicious way to start this. So this is the Triple Doink podcast. Um, this is episode one, the first one ever. My name is Ryan, and I am joined by my friend Bryce, my good friend, the Tom Brady to my Bill Belichick. How are you, Bryce?
I'm doing quite fine. That's quite the comparison, I must say, to make.
Well, I had to come up with something big for the first episode.
Something
Um,
big.
so
Will you be the
this is
Odell Beckham to my Baker Mayfield?
Well, that could still be a
Yeah, I know.
disastrous
That's the perfect
pairing.
thing. It's perfect. Either way, it works.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
For
so.
now, because of the enigma that is that team.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, um, as I said, this is the Triple Doink podcast, and we're here to talk about football, um, and whatever else we feel like talking about because we're not professionals. Um,
Come on, you can't play us down that much. Come on. I know you're being humble, but come on.
well, I
We're
mean,
the Triple Doink podcast. Come on, we're that. I said come on 3 times there.
once you and I do a podcast that has more than 7 episodes, maybe we can call ourselves professionals.
All right. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Okay,
All right.
so anyway, this I was thinking about whether or not I wanted to describe this, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do it. So we came up with the idea for this podcast a while back, but the thing that made us actually decide to do it was several weeks ago, and today is March 16th, 2019. And several weeks ago, like at the end of February, I had a dream in which the Packers traded for Odell Beckham. And somehow in my dream, I didn't find out until like 12 hours later. And I was like excited that the Packers were adding Odell Beckham because I'm a Packer fan. But I was really mad at Bryce for not texting me and telling me about it sooner.
uh, to
And
this day, I
when I woke up, I had a lot of mixed emotions about that. And I wrestled with whether or not to tell Bryce about it for like 16 hours. And then I finally texted him and told him. And we basically decided then that we absolutely have to do this podcast.
oh man,
But
I
then
thought we
when Odell Beckham did get traded to the Browns last week, Bryce did not text me about it.
I did.
So I texted you first. I
You
feel
you were the
betrayed.
one that texted me first, did you? We
I
talked
did.
about it during in text, but it wasn't a 12-hour window.
No, it was not 12 hours, but I beat you to it.
All right,
So anyway,
I'll take that.
yeah. Anyway, now we're here and we're doing this, and I already regret it.
Already regret. All
Oh
right,
yeah.
that's a great way to start.
Yep. Okay. So today the plan is to talk about all the stuff that's happened since the end of the Super Bowl, which was the last time you and I really had an in-depth football discussion.
Yeah.
Because of course, our new tradition, which is now 2 years old, is that we get together the Monday after the Super Bowl and we predict the entire upcoming season, game by game.
As
And
well as whichever quarterback will start week 1 for each team.
yeah, which we already seem to have gotten wrong.
Really wrong.
Yeah,
Wow. Both of our Foles predictions were completely wrong. I can't believe that.
yeah. Where did we have Foles? I
You
can't
had him in
remember.
Denver, and I had him in Washington.
That's right. Yeah. Which at the time seemed like really good predictions because I didn't think that the Jags were going to go and
No one
really
thought the Jags were
aggressively
going to be
pursue him.
proactive.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. The other the other thing we're going to talk about is we're going to start talking about those predictions, and we've decided we're going to just do one division, and we're going to start with the AFC North because that's the most exciting division right now
Do you
with a
want to
lot of
start with
moves.
that first?
Um, let's hit the news items first, and then we'll get into that.
All right.
Um, so I guess the obvious place to start is the biggest thing that's happened, which is Odell Beckham getting traded to the Browns.
Wait, that happened? Wait, when?
Yeah. We need
Who's
to
Odell?
we need right. We need to start there. Um,
All right.
so I did write down the terms of some of these big trades. So it ended up being Beckham, Olivier Vernon, and a first and third round pick for Kevin Zeitler and Jabril Peppers.
And the other picks as well.
And yeah, I think the Browns sent some picks back. But
I
anyway,
thought that the Giants received the Browns' first round pick because I know that happened,
oh
and
yeah,
a third
yeah,
rounder.
yep, first and third, along with Beckham and Vernon. So yeah, I mean, huge trade,
Yeah,
crazy trade.
it's. I love what people have said about the contrasts between this trade and the Antonio Brown trade.
Yeah,
Like,
because they were
it's
like less than a week
really
apart.
mind-boggling to me. Sorry about that, by the way.
That's okay.
That you could trade the best receiver in football for 2 throwaway draft picks.
Well, I mean, okay, they're not quite throwaway picks. I mean, a third
It's for
rounder is
Antonio
not
Brown,
nothing.
though.
I do agree that
That's
seems like that
oh,
seems pretty insane.
it's unheard of to have. They really believe in Juju, man. But I
Well,
don't.
I don't think that's it, honestly. I think that Antonio Brown just completely tanked his own value
I
to the
believe
point
so
that
too. But that's
to
still
the
no
point that
excuse.
nobody wanted to give up a higher draft pick for him than the Raiders did. And I don't know. It just it seems like it's such a risky thing to trade for this guy at this point because he seems to be mentally unstable. and and you
Yeah,
know, I kind of understand why the Steelers couldn't get more for him in the end. And
they
ultimately they had to move
probably
on from
could.
him.
I really am. The details of that trade are still iffy for me because I do believe that because I have no inside information on this, but there's no way in hell you trade Odell Beckham for like is it a third and fourth rounder, right?
Uh from the Brown trade they got a third and a fifth.
Yeah, a fifth round. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no way that that was like
I was very surprised when I found out that was all that the Raiders gave up for him because the Raiders have so many high draft picks this year. They
they're
have
basically trying to mimic the Browns woes of like 5 years
I
so
think
that
that
they can find their
they
bait.
have three first rounders, don't they? And then they have pick 35, the third pick in the second round.
Yeah.
So, like I really expected them to part with at least one of those top 35
I
picks.
think they did too.
Yeah.
I think that they put like a low offer, and then they were gonna see how high it was gonna go. But maybe like the Steelers just said, yeah, fine, Jesus, get him out.
So, what ended up happening though with this trade with Antonio Brown, and I wanted to mention this as it relates to our predictions because we, of course, both years that we've done this, we projected the 49ers to just demolish everybody.
Yeah, we did.
We have them going 14-2
We don't know
this year.
why. We don't have any
Well,
bias towards the 49ers.
no, I mean neither of us really even like the 49ers. We just we just had this feeling about them being good 2 years in a row.
I
But
I think it's because we still believe Jimmy G is a top 3 quarterback.
yeah, I think we do. Um,
His arm is really nice though. Like
I mean, I like Jimmy G a lot, but
his
anyway, that's
yeah.
that's that's getting away from the main point here.
Mm-hmm.
They were the top team in the league in our predictions, and the bottom team in our league was the other Bay Area team, the Raiders,
Yeah.
who we had going 1 and
Aren't they a
15.
former Bay Area team
No, they're still in Oakland this year.
this year? Okay.
Yeah, they worked out a deal.
That's right. I
That part of the
God
reason that we
damn, they are bleeding money.
part of the reason that we had them being so bad was we thought they were going to be homeless. And at the time, it really looked like they might not have a place to play. Yeah.
As though
But anyway, we had them going
the
1 and
homeless
15.
football team.
We had the Raiders 1 and 15 though. Like that's
Yeah, they're getting
insanely
a few more
bad.
wins. Antonio
But
Brown
okay,
carries at least 3 wins on his own.
here's the thing though is we had projected Antonio Brown to the 49ers and that was part of the reason they were so good in our predictions was that we had them adding the best wide receiver in football. Um, so
I
I
agree.
think that flips our predictions pretty
We
drastically.
can't
But
change them, but
we
we
can't
can
change them;
say
they're set
that
in
I
stone
don't
now.
think
But I'm
I
just
believe
saying
in
that
myself as much as I used to.
that was a major factor in the 49ers being so good and the Raiders being so bad.
And
And
that's
I,
part of
I
the reason
think
why
that
I love doing this prediction, because it's like,
oh yeah, it's just fun to see how horribly wrong you are about these things.
how your
Like last year,
intuition before like things that you could know nothing about happen.
didn't we have the Cardinals led by Kirk Cousins in like the NFC Championship game?
Yeah, we did.
And then they ended up with the
And
number
both
one
of
overall
them
pick.
just oh, Cardinals had the worst season
Yeah,
in
and
the league,
The Vikings
and
had a disappointing season too with Cousins. So anyway, all right, before we move on from Beckham and Brown,
we haven't
is there
really
anything?
talked about Beckham, to be fair.
I guess not. We haven't. So
We
we should talk a little more about him.
Yeah,
Um, okay. So what else do you want to say? I mean, he's obviously. I
I want to
personally
first
believe.
go towards the Giants and a tweet
Well,
by Adam Schefter. Uh,
okay.
he posts. It's just a fact. That the Giants' post OBJ weapons will be Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, and Saquon Barkley. And I
Yeah.
like what Brett said. Brett Coleman, if you don't know.
You're on a
And he
first name
basically
basis
said
with the
they're
guy.
gonna try to find a way to line all 4 of these guys in the slot in the same play.
Well, and
And that couldn't describe their weapons
it
more
makes sense too
accurately.
because Eli Manning can't throw outside the numbers anymore.
Yeah.
So like it totally makes sense to just have a bunch of good guys who can play from the slot.
I mean,
Um,
if you're gonna commit to a waning Eli Manning, I guess.
I think that the Giants really would have liked to have gotten an outside wide receiver. Obviously, you're not going to get somebody on Beckham's level, but they would have liked to have added somebody on the outside, and they weren't able to get anyone.
Yeah. I'm also so damn excited for the dynamic duo from LSU. With
Yeah,
Landry being beside Odell Beckham. People do not give Landry enough credit. They say that he just falls down after he catches balls. He's had like 3 seasons with 1,300 yards. He's been in the league for 4 years.
yeah. I mean,
He's insane. He's
he's the king of the bubble screen. But that said, I mean, he's still a valuable player to have on your
he's a
offense.
wide receiver 1 that's going to play wide receiver 2 and like it.
I don't know that he's a wide receiver one, but he's definitely a great piece. And he and Beckham complement each other well.
Look,
They
okay.
do
If
different things
Marquise
well.
Lee can be a wide receiver 1, then Jarvis Landry is definitely a wide receiver 1.
Okay. Here's the thing. Marquise Lee can't be a wide receiver one. He just is because the 49ers have a bad receiving core.
49ers, that's Marquise Goodwin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Goodwin.
Marquise Lee was
Marquise. Oh,
the
you're thinking of the
injury
Jags. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
reserved, gets hurt before the season, wide receiver 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, well, okay, that was a bad idea too.
That
And
was,
Marquise Goodwin is not really a wide receiver one either. While we're talking about Marquise's,
I mean, if I still think I would trust Jarvis Landry over anyone in the Giants. I would trust him over Juju Smith-Schuster, even though I like Juju a lot. I just really, really think Jarvis is really good. He would be a wide receiver 1 if he went to Miami, Buffalo, even New York, either of them.
I mean,
New
I
England.
don't disagree that he would be a wide receiver one in a lot of places, but I don't think he functions best that way.
Well, no, but he's gonna be better in the slot, and OBJ is going to be outside the numbers, and they're going to complement each other and be open every play.
Yeah, agreed.
And
Baker should
then
have
if they're
no
not, you
shortage
have
of
David
targets.
Njoku, who's going to be on his second year, who,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have
Plus,
Nick Chubb. Did you see the Kareem Hunt suspension? By
yeah,
the
I
way,
was
it's
I
eight
was
weeks.
gonna
Yeah,
bring that up. Yeah,
it's 8 weeks. That's relevant here, but not too much because they still have Nick Chubb, who's going to be a
yeah.
second year running back. Oh my!
Honestly, the Kareem Hunt thing kind of confuses me a bit because I don't know.
They wanted to
If
kick
I
it
were
off
any
strong.
team, I wouldn't have brought him in. Like I would have waited for the suspension to be official before actually signing him.
Dude,
But the Browns did what they did.
honestly, I'm love how aggressive they're being. They took a risk and they keep being proactive, and that's what matters. It doesn't even matter if Kareem Hunt like just busts completely, right? Because they
Yeah,
have other weapons to be like. It's just they have this huge depth chart now.
yeah. I mean, their offense looks good.
Eh,
On the other side
Obviously,
of the
we
ball,
can't
though,
say a lot about their O line because we don't know enough about technique and the
yeah.
gaps and
As
how
I
each
said,
person.
as I said up top, we are not professionals,
Yeah,
so we
but
don't
I
we don't know
assume
enough to
that
evaluate the
anybody
line.
with Baker Mayfield, like Baker Mayfield creates time, and that's what matters.
Yeah, well,
So
and
that's why
having
I
to
don't think people are
devote
bringing up the O line that much is because Baker's at the helm.
plus having to devote so many extra defenders to stopping all those weapons, and namely Odell Beckham, you're not
I
going to
still
have
think
as
the
much of
way
a
that
pass
defenses are
rush.
going to beat the Browns is by blitzing. That is the way I predict they will
Well, I
lose.
mean
They will lose
that's
to an
what's going to be
aggressive
tried.
defense. Like they're going to lose to the Ravens once because the Ravens will just have a scheme that just fucks them.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a really interesting division race, and I'm looking forward to talking about that when we get into it.
No, I think that they're gonna take the cake really heavily, but they're gonna lose a few games. I think a game to the Ravens at least. The Ravens do really well
that's a
against
solid prediction.
offenses.
Um, So on the other side of the ball, the Browns also got Olivier Vernon from the Giants, and they signed Sheldon Richardson. So between those guys and Miles Garrett, they should have formidable front seven.
Yeah, people don't give Miles Garrett the credit he deserves. I believe because he had
Oh,
all that hype,
he's
you
great.
know, and but he's not a bad player at all. Jesus
Oh
Christ,
no,
he's scary.
I mean Miles Garrett, even in his rookie year when they went 0-16,
He
like
was, yeah, he was. No one
he
wanted to
was
get hit by that
terrorizing
guy.
he was terrorizing offenses, and just the Browns sucked so badly outside of him that the results didn't show.
Who do
But
they have? I forget, but they have a few. Like their secondary doesn't look bad either, right? They have,
well, yeah, they just traded away Jabril
yeah,
Peppers in the
obvious.
Beckham trade, so they're without him, and I'm a little disappointed because I liked him, and now he's going
Now
to a
Jabril
team that I
Peppers is good, and I think he'll be good on the Giants, who seem to
yeah,
actually be growing their defense quite
well, except
nicely.
that they lost Landon Collins, but we'll get to that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's like they keep adding like pieces that they needed before they got rid of players that would
uh,
have been great to complement them with.
yeah, we should not get into like how stupid the Giants front office looks right now because I don't think we'll stop talking
The
about
worst
them.
part about it is that most Giants fans are on their side.
Well, I mean, they kind of have to be, don't they? I mean,
What I've noticed about Giants fans is that they are like self-harming, if anything, when it comes to like devotion. It's like
yeah, I mean
Eli
that's
can
true of
do no
all the fan
wrong.
bases.
It was always OBJ's fault. God, I
Yeah,
hope that they all eat dirt this season. Oh, it's gonna be so beautiful watching New York burn.
yeah. Really quickly though, I mean, I my thoughts on the Giants is that they really thought they were going to be good last year, and they weren't, and that's what's really screwed them over
They
because they
were,
gave.
in all fairness, they are the best 6-10 team I've seen in a while. They should have. They were an 8-8
eh,
team in skill wise, based on how they
but that's
played.
8-8 is still not good. It's average.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not like defending them in any way. I'm just saying that people saying
But
that they were a
they
bad
thought
team, they weren't bad. They were eh.
they thought they were going to be a playoff team
They
going into the
yes,
year,
they definitely did.
and they were very, very wrong about that, and that has really screwed them over. And
Didn't
now they're
they
trying to
lost both
backpedal.
games to the Cowboys, right?
I don't remember,
Yeah. Oh well.
but anyway, um, so is there anything else you want to say about the Browns and Beckham
Oh man.
while we're here?
I think I'm the only person in the world who's more excited to see what Landry can do than Odell.
Well, it's going to be a really
I
fun
really
offense to
just like how
watch.
Landry
I'm
plays. Sorry.
like, oh yeah, I mean, I obviously you like him more than I do, but he's a good player. It's frustrating to me how poorly he was utilized in Miami, and that's
Yeah.
probably part of the reason I don't like him. But anyway,
I mean,
um,
to be fair, Miami somehow misused Adam Gaze, who's on the Jets, right?
yeah, he's
Jet.
the head coach of the
God, that
Jets now.
I want to get that team. Actually, looks so good. I'm so
Yeah,
glad
and
we have them in the playoffs because they are definitely making it, man.
let's talk
Le'Veon.
about the Jets. Let's
Oh.
talk about the Jets now because the next item on my list is Le'Veon Bell signing with the Jets.
Oh yes.
Um,
Uh, they
so
have a 40% chance of winning that division.
I don't know.
They're
I don't know
so
about
good.
that,
No, they're so good.
but
People,
I really like that move for the Jets.
what could happen? Sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I'm really
No,
excited
go
to
ahead.
talk. You can go.
No, I go ahead.
No. Okay. Sam, Darnold, S. Darn, as it's
Darn.
popularized now. Ah, man, this all relies on him, I think, because he could. I think there's a possibility that how QBs have kind of tend to have a terrible sophomore year,
Mm-hmm. Unless you're Patrick Mahomes
unless if you're Pat Mahomes, yeah. Uh,
or Carson Wentz.
and I think that Wentz and Mahomes and Mayfield will all be exceptions. We'll see what about Estarn, but if he's able to also combat it, this team definitely makes playoffs. Like, with no way they don't. But there's a possibility that Sam Darnold just has to take another year, but he's definitely going to be good eventually. I guarantee this kid is going to be fantastic, and that
Yeah, I
there
mean
will
he's
be a
shown.
rivalry between the Jets and Browns in the future that just keeps happening.
Yeah, I mean Darnold's definitely shown progress. I mean, I like what I saw from him. Definitely more than anything that I saw from the quarterbacks picked after him in the draft. So,
Are we going to
and
talk about some of those quarterbacks as well? Because there is a certain one that people keep throwing out that teams should trade for.
let's okay, so obviously you're talking about Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
Let's wait until something actually happens to talk about that because
Okay.
we've got a lot to talk about that has actually happened since the Super
That is
Bowl.
fair enough. That
Um,
is fair.
but back to Le'Veon Bell, I love the fit with the Jets. Now, if you recall, we had him going to the Colts in our prediction. Um, so that probably affects things because we had the Colts being very good.
No, I don't think
Um,
that affects it too much. They still have enough weapons, and they're coached
I think
fantastically.
I think they'll add pieces in the draft. I still think they'll do well, but
What helps?
it maybe limits their ceiling a little, and it definitely raises the Jets' ceiling.
What helps a lot with the Colts is that they're a young team, so they don't. They already have like a lot of pieces that are overperforming for their age,
Hmm.
and the only pieces that they have to really worry about is Ty getting old, but he's still.
Yeah,
I
T.Y.
would say
Hilton's
he's
still
still
playing
got
at a high
3 to 5 years of fantastic play ahead of him. Another player
level.
that people don't give enough credit. T.Y. Hilton is phenomenal, and he's one of the most entertaining wide receivers to watch in
Yeah. Oh yeah.
football.
I mean, I love T.Y. Hilton. On my fantasy team last year,
My
as was Andrew Luck.
my father always tries to draft Ty because he's a type of receiver that'll give you 2 points or he'll give you 20,
Oh yeah, I know.
and he loves that.
Yeah. Um, okay, so anyway, do we want to say anything more about Lev Bell? I mean, I think it's a great move for the
I
Jets and
mean,
for
great
helping
move, but
Darnold.
he lost millions.
Yeah, he could have made more.
I mean, if you're trying to make money, it's not a good move. But I would say if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, it's a great move because I don't think the
Yeah.
Steelers are getting back anytime soon, and it's gonna be
Well, I mean, for both Bell and Brown, it was obvious that they both needed to get out of Pittsburgh.
no. Pittsburgh is such a weird enigma of what the fuck happened
Yeah, I don't know.
because
I don't understand it.
there's gonna be a documentary like years in the future, right?
Yeah,
And
it'll
it's
be a
gonna be like the
football life.
Firefest documentaries that came out a few months ago, but it's gonna be about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like,
Well, I have a feeling it's going to be like a football life type thing, and it's going to be just about the killer bees and how all of that collapsed.
yeah, the
But anyway, moving on to other news. Um, so there were a bunch of quarterback moves. And the first one that happened was Joe Flacco getting traded to the Broncos.
yep.
Um,
This
so
doesn't ruin my prediction yet, though.
what was your prediction
That
again?
Case Keenum still starts week 1.
Well, that prediction has been ruined because in a corresponding move, the Broncos then shipped Keenum out to Washington.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Oh yeah.
so these trades were a little interesting because Joe Flacco, the Broncos gave up a fourth round pick, which seems like a pretty low price for a starting quarterback. Um,
I
but
think the
it
Ravens are really low on Flacco, and they were
well,
not
and
giving off.
it
Weren't
seemed obvious that they were just going to cut him if nobody would trade for him.
yeah.
So so that was part of the thing too. And I mean honestly, I feel like it's a desperation move for John Elway because he's done a terrible job of evaluating quarterbacks.
Uh, he's
I
done
mean,
a very good
everybody,
job at evaluating Peyton Manning.
yeah, but everybody since Peyton
Yeah.
Manning has been a terrible, terrible evaluation on his part.
What do you
I mean,
mean? You're telling me you? I mean, okay.
I'm
I
telling you,
don't
I
think
don't
Keenum was
believe
bad when he played in Denver. I
Keenum.
just don't think he had any weapons, and they started and any weapons he did have, they traded away.
I actually feel the same way about, well, you know what, I'll talk about this more in a minute. But
All right.
what I was going to say is, I mean, he wanted to give a lot of money to Brock Osweiler. He drafted Paxton Lynch, and that was a miserable failure. He gave a lot of money to Case Keenum, and that was horrible, only to trade him away for essentially nothing a year later because they sent Keenum and a seventh to Washington for a sixth round pick, which
Yeah,
is
and I
like
do
basically
believe
nothing.
Washington might actually start Keenum.
Well, they're going to have to, it looks like, because Alex Smith is
Well,
out of the
Alex Smith
picture
is
right
not. No, there's no way he plays next season.
now.
It's really
No.
unfortunate. No one wants to see it, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Washington did what they have to do. When you've got an injured quarterback like that you just gave a lot of money to, your hands are kind of tied. Um, so I'm okay with the move for Washington. Denver, I mean, like I said, it's a desperation move because John Elway needs an established guy because he can't evaluate young quarterbacks. And if this Flacco move doesn't work out, I feel like John Elway is going to be done in Denver, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, he's anything that he had given them in like the 90s and with Peyton Manning is kind of being forgotten now because everyone's starting to realize he
I
doesn't
mean,
do good when it comes to
they
evaluating
won
rookies.
they won Super Bowl 50 and they haven't made the playoffs since.
It I will say that their defense front seven is disgustingly good.
Oh yeah, I mean their
However,
defense
Von Miller
has
doesn't
been
get
good
any
for
younger.
years. That's true.
They basically have a second year Philip Lindsay who's gonna be really good this second
Yeah.
year. He's gonna have wheels. Oh man.
Also one of my fantasy studs.
Yeah. I wonder
Um,
my fantasy stud Saquon.
but okay, so those quarterback moves are, you know, I don't think it really makes the Broncos a lot better. I mean, I feel like Joe Flacco is an upgrade over Case Keenum. but
Yep.
their offensive line is still terrible, and
That's what I think.
that's going to get any quarterback killed.
If you're not gonna give yourself any line of defense, I don't care if you have Aaron Rodgers behind you, or I don't care. You can put
Russell Wilson.
any quarterback behind the Broncos front five in the trenches, and they will get destroyed.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you
if
can
you
make
look
any of
back
them
at
look
like
bad.
if you look back at like those Seattle teams that had such horrible offensive lines, and like Russell Wilson made them passable because he was just
Yeah.
such a good
Last
he was so
season,
good at yeah,
even just last
he's so good
season,
at making
people
plays on the
started
run.
to blame Russell Wilson because he would like try to extend plays, and they were basically blaming a lot of sacks on Russell, but that's because he didn't have any trust of the guys that were trying to block
Yeah.
for him. He just did not
But
trust
then
them to actually protect him.
compare that though to the statuesque Joe Flacco, and I feel like he's gonna get killed back there,
He's
just like Case
dude.
Keenum did.
I don't know how he's gonna survive. I feel so bad for Flacco, honestly.
Yeah.
Did we have Denver having another bust year?
Let me check really quick. The Broncos. We had them going 7-9, so yeah, they're middle of the road.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be a 6-10 because I think they play Oakland.
Well, of course they're in the same division.
Oh yeah, wait.
So anyway, so next on my list, then we finally get to the topic that you've been waiting for. The other big quarterback move.
Oh no,
Nick Foles signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Your team.
There's a reason why we got the boat on the thumbnail, and that's because I made the thumbnail. So of course I'm gonna put him on. Because to me, this is the biggest move in franchise history.
Well, it's hard to argue with that. I really like the decision by the Jags because they realized that they regressed quite a bit last year, but they're still in their Super Bowl window, and they need a guy under center who can be consistent. And it's funny to call Nick Foles consistent when you look at what he's done over his career. He's been one of the most hot and cold quarterbacks. But I think he is capable, and I think that the Eagles have proven that in the right offense, Nick Foles is a good quarterback. So I think it's a great decision by the Jaguars. I think that especially since they have John DeFilippo, who can help to sort of run that same Eagles offense that ran.
I think they'll be fine together.
But the concern is that DeFilippo flamed out so badly in Minnesota last year. But reuniting Foles and DeFilippo is a good thing, I think, for the Jaguars.
What I will say about Foles is that he's gonna get us a lot of points, but he's gonna give away a lot of points.
Yeah,
because he doesn't have receivers like Jeffrey, who complimented him so well because he throws so many 50-50 balls.
I mean,
don't
you wish that the Jaguars still had Allen Robinson at this point?
I wish that they had Foles with Allen Robinson, but
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Thought that getting rid of Allen Robinson with Bortles, that was perfect, because Bortles does better with receivers like Marquise Lee because he loves throwing these short shuffle routes, these short to medium passes, and then just letting the trenches do the work. And that's how they set up their offense, which is why I thought Bortles was a perfect fit. If they just kept themselves cool,
and you're deluded like all Jaguars fans into thinking that Blake Bortles is a good player.
He's great,
but no, he's not. So is there anything else you want to say about the Nick Foles signing? Because you are the Jaguars fan, so I'll let you talk about it. He
wasn't the best boat, but he was our boat. That's all that matters, man.
Okay. Um, so in other quarterback news, this just happened yesterday. Ryan Tannehill traded to the Tennessee Titans.
Hmm. I remember hearing about that, and I thought, what?
That was my thought too. I was like, "Does what come again?"
Why?
Because it's like, what is going on in Miami right now? I mean,
No, no,
they're
we did predict. We both predicted that Ryan Tannehill does not start in Miami
well, and the
for
Dolphins had kind of
different
announced
reasons.
that he wouldn't be back, but my whole thing was I thought they were going to go hard after Foles or Flacco or somebody, but they seem to be content right now with having no quarterback at all.
Hey, no, they are content with having a quarterback that I said would start. Brocktober continues, baby.
No, Brock Osweiler is out the door. He's a free agent.
Oh wait, did they not re-sign Brock?
They didn't.
Jesus.
Their starting quarterback as of right now would be Jake Rudock.
Oh, what? Who?
Yeah, Jake Rudock.
Who? Are they gonna just go all in for Kyle Murray? Because that
I
has to
don't
be their plan.
know.
Because Kyle Murray
But they
is.
don't have a high enough draft pick. I
I
mean, they would
know.
have to give up a fortune to move up and get him.
Who
And I
do they
mean,
have to give?
maybe the Cardinals are willing to deal, but I mean, they finished 7-9 last year, so they don't have a
They
premium
did
pick
too
to
good
give
to
up.
fail.
Right, exactly. And Brocktober, bailed him out. Um,
Oh no.
Between Brocktober and the Miami Miracle, they found a way to get to 7 wins.
I have
But
to say, in contrast to what the Giants 6-10 record says, the 7-9 Miami Dolphins is a
oh yeah,
terrible, terrible team.
they're one of the worst 7-win teams I've ever seen. I mean, they were awful
They
last
were
year.
worse than the Bills. I would say
The
that even.
the question is now though, how do the Titans really feel about Mariota this year? I feel like it's a good move to acquire Tannehill if you're going to make him Mariota's backup because Marcus Mariota has always struggled with injuries and he's still dealing with some weird nerve thing in his throwing hand, so you never know what that's going to be. And it's good to
Mariota.
have. I mean, Tannehill's immediately like one of the best backups, if not the best, in the National Football League.
It's insane to think that Winston and Mariota still have a job.
Oh, I know, right?
God.
The I mean, I love the Chris
Yeah,
Wesseling tweet from several
everyone loves
months
this
ago
quote.
that the Mariota Winston debate is settling in at no.
There isn't a better quote to describe it because it's
Yeah.
just so perfect to be like, these were the two number one QBs of
I
like
know.
2014, right? 20. I
I
think
don't remember what year.
it was the 2014 draft. I think because I think it was the same draft
Let
actually
me
as
Google it.
Odell Beckham. Uh, funnily enough, and yeah, it was the draft right before Bortles. So I think that's 2014.
2015 draft.
What?
2015
It was
draft.
the 2015.
Yep.
Then that is the Bortles draft.
No. No.
Really?
Beckham was 2014. That was the draft with all the wide receivers.
Yeah.
And Blake Bortles
Funny thing how
was
Google
drafted in 2014.
20 Bortles is older than Mariota and Winston.
Well,
that surprises me.
I mean, he came into the league a year before them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I
Anyway,
meant.
yeah. So yeah, I guess that 2014 draft, that was the year of Bortles, Manziel, and all the wide receivers.
Jesus.
I remember watching that draft live, actually, the first round of that draft. That was a fun one. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, anything else to say on Ryan Tannehill? I just don't know. What's so
he's
weird?
Such a non-quarterback.
I mean, yeah, I don't really like Ryan Tannehill, but he's a good backup. What just confuses me is like I understand that maybe the Dolphins want to tank, but you can't be
You
so
can't do
obvious
this,
about it.
man.
And what's really weird to me is that like Teddy Bridgewater met with the Dolphins and then decided to stay with the Saints. Like
He literally
quarterbacks
looked at
just
the
don't want to
Dolphins and
go there.
said, "No."
And Tyrod Taylor too. He wanted to go to the Dolphins, or he looked into it at least, and then signed a backup deal with the Chargers.
That's
Like
how bad the Dolphins' resume looks right now.
quarterbacks don't want to go there. How are they going? The only way they're going to find somebody to play is by drafting him.
And people can even say no in the draft. I mean, it hasn't
Yeah, look at
happened in
what
a
Eli
while,
Manning
but it
did.
can happen.
Eli Manning, right? um, so all right, so that wraps up quarterback talk for the moment. Um, so the next news item, and I just kind of went down by team here. Um, so the Cardinals, I have noted that Terrell Suggs is going to the Cardinals, which just
Yeah,
seems like such a weird thing.
I never thought he was going to leave
I
Baltimore, but
didn't
I
either.
think that Baltimore's defense is going to be such a shadow of what it was this year.
Well, are you sure?
I'm sure. I don't care if they have Earl Thomas. I don't care if they
I
have
mean,
who else did they get?
I mean Earl Thomas was the big name on defense, but
And then they
I
got
feel
someone
like
on
that
offense, right?
right. Mark Ingram.
Yes, that's right. I love that guy.
That that's the thing with the Ravens is they find a way to be consistently good on defense, and I feel like they still will be, even though they're losing
I
Suggs and
think that
Zadarius
they
Smith.
found a way because they had such like embedded veterans that could communicate so well with one another.
But like if you look at them, it's like every time one of their veterans leaves, like Ray Lewis leaves or Ed Reed leaves or
Well, they
anybody,
have another
somebody else.
one like to take his place. Like there was someone to pass the torch down every time.
Well, yeah, and I feel like they'll still find a way. I
I don't like
I
survivor's bias. I really don't.
until I see it, I can't I can't I can't predict that the Ravens defense is going to be bad until I actually see it.
I never said they're going to be
I
bad.
think
I just don't think they'll be what they were last year.
no, probably not. Their offense does help that though, with such with such a ball control offense that's so run heavy. It keeps the defense off the field and fresh.
If they're able
And
to run like they did last year, yeah. But
which I think there's a good chance that they'll do, especially adding Mark Ingram. Um,
they have a lot of people that can run the ball.
yeah, they really do.
Jesus.
I think it's an offense that any running back should want to play in.
Which is why I think they got one of the most consistent
Yeah, I
and
mean,
most tested running backs in the league in Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram's a great fit for the offense, as most
Because he
running
doesn't
backs.
need to take full time, and that's the big thing. Is if you
Yeah,
can get someone like Mark Ingram as like your secondary, you're set.
yeah, it's a really good fit. I am a little concerned for the Ravens though because I'm wondering if they're really going to be able to repeat what they did with that running game
They're
for the
not.
second half of last season. Because if you look at what happened in the wild card game, I think that the Chargers figured something out.
I
You know, they they came out with all those DBs on the field and
yeah,
they
no, they
completely shut down the
Gus.
Ravens offense.
It's Gus Bradley, right?
Yeah,
Gus Bradley game planned perfectly for that game, and then
Gus
forgot
Bradley
to the
schemed
next
it up.
week.
Yeah, and then of course the next week they got horribly out schemed by the Patriots, but
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think they
yeah, and they
figured it.
also instead of Brady showing age, Rivers.
Yeah,
Ooh, that was not pretty.
yeah, just a disappointing week to be a football fan, honestly. But anyway, I wonder if other teams are going to find ways to limit Lamar Jackson like the Chargers did and limit that running game because when you force Lamar Jackson to throw, at least last year, he was not really able to do it. And the Ravens don't have many good receivers.
I agree. They got
So,
rid of some of their weapons as well, And I'm not saying their weapons that they got rid of were any good, like John Brown, but like they were weapons regardless.
Yeah. So the Ravens are, I mean, they're one of those teams that I can't figure out. Like, I could easily see them being good again and going, you know, 11-5 and making the playoffs, or I could see them being 5-11 and having to just completely rebuild. Like, I honestly don't know what's going to happen with that team.
I'm still confused as well. Yeah.
What did we have them doing in our predictions? I just want to
I think we
find that
have them
quick.
doing 6-10.
6-10, sure enough. Yeah. So, all right, we had them on the low side of that, but
We did. We especially because they have to play the AFC East, so they
mhm.
have to play two good teams, two really solid teams, and the
Wow, really
Chiefs
hyping the Jets.
and the NFC West, which we still think 49ers, baby.
Yeah.
And then
All
you
right.
still
So
like it's their schedule that we believe.
other notable things that have happened, and we can kind of fly through these, and not, a lot of them are not going to be big talking points, but the Falcons franchise tagging Grady Jarrett. Um, I think that's a really smart move. I
Yeah,
think they need him on their defense. Um, so good job, Atlanta Falcons. Um,
I
the
have a few.
Cowboys,
Yeah, okay.
the Cowboys tagged Demarcus Lawrence, um, which again, I think you got to keep the
You
guy in the building.
you got
Obviously, a great pass rusher. Um,
anything to lock them up in your franchise. I mean, you
yeah.
can't lose pieces like that.
Um, and then while we're with the Cowboys, Jason Witten comes out of retirement to play for the Cowboys again. I mean, what are your thoughts on that,
The Rogers
Bryce?
Cromartie?
What?
Did I say the wrong name again?
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, okay, yes, Dominique Rogers Cromartie did come out of retirement, but I'm
Didn't he
talking
go
about Jason Witten.
Jason Witten?
Yeah, Jason Witten coming out of
I think
retirement.
I love that so much. I don't care how he plays on the field. I just want Monday Night Football gone completely. I
Uh,
want it like I don't even want to watch football on that night anymore. It's been ruined for me.
like, okay, yes, Jason Witten
Holy
was a
crap.
terrible broadcaster,
It
but
was the worst broadcast on television.
so I agree. I don't think he should be broadcasting anymore, but I also don't think he should be playing football anymore because he's
He
not.
took a he'll be fine this year. He'll be fine.
Nah,
He won't be good. He won't be great. He won't be bad.
I disagree. I think
But
he's
I'd
going to be
rather have
bad,
Jason
and I
Witten than
think
Jimmy
he's going to
Graham.
hurt the Cowboys. And this just supports my theory that they're going to flame out badly and miss the playoffs, like they always do the year after they make the playoffs.
Oh man.
So, anyway, Jason Witten,
What team did Rogers Cromartie go to?
Washington, I believe.
That's right. That's why I thought that you were talking about him when you were talking about the Cowboys.
Let me look that up and verify it quick. Yes, Dominique Rogers Cromartie to Washington.
God.
Um, I suppose while we're with Washington, we could talk about a couple of the other things they did. Um, so the big one, of course, is they sign free agent Landon Collins, who the Giants decided not to tag. Um, you know, big move, but a little bit surprising considering that
Mm-hmm.
Washington's in such a bad spot right now.
They couldn't even hold on to Clinton Dix.
Well, honestly, I'm a little surprised because weren't Collins and Clinton Dix teammates at Alabama?
Yeah.
Like, you'd think they would have wanted to play together. You'd think it'd be like a Beckham Landry situation.
They were you would assume that like there's a lot of Alabama on Washington. That whole team
Well,
is
there's a
has
lot of Alabama everywhere in the
No, but
NFL.
like specifically Washington has been only drafting Bama players on
Yeah.
defense. They literally have like it's uncanny how much they love that franchise, and the reason why they're doing that is because of mindset mentality. that they're trying to get.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to get that Bama like I don't know structure ingrained into their defense because they're just this hard hitting, resilient group of people.
So, um, before we move to Haha Clinton Dix, which I want to get to next, um, the the racists, as we call them, the Washington football team,
You love
they
calling them
also,
that.
yeah, the Washington racists, they re-signed Adrian Peterson as well,
Yeah,
which
that's
I
smart.
think is a good move for them. He played well for him early on before Alex Smith got hurt. Um,
Yeah,
so might as well bring him back. I mean, he's obviously a future Hall of Famer. He might have another good year in him.
he might have another two good.
He
There's a
might.
possibility that they have two Adrian Peterson 1,000-yard rushing years left.
Yeah, it's definitely
Who
possible.
would have thought that in 2019 that would be possible? Like,
Yeah, I
ugh.
know. I mean, I everybody thought he was done when he flamed out in New Orleans, and was it New Orleans? Yeah, but anyway, yeah, he definitely had a productive year last year, the first half of the season. So I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
good move for them bringing him back. Um, so then with Landon Collins coming in, Haha Clinton Dix is out, and he signed a 1 year deal with the Bears. Um,
Yes, I saw that, and I think
Presumably
Clinton Dix
for
likes that.
revenge. It's interesting. All of these safeties, the safety vacancy now is the Browns because you get this weird cycle where the Packers signed Adrian Amos from the Bears. The Bears sign Haha Clinton Dix from Washington. Washington signs Landon Collins from the Giants. The Giants acquire Jabril Peppers from the Browns, and now the Browns have a vacancy.
Because the Packers had no one.
Right, exactly.
There
Because
was
the Packers just had nobody to go there.
didn't they have Tremont Williams playing safety?
Yeah, I.
Oh my god.
So we'll get to Amos and all the Packers moves in a second, but I want to wrap up on Clinton Dix. Do you have any further thoughts on him?
He's good.
Yeah,
He's
he's
really
still a good player.
he it's surprising to me that he's become a journeyman, but
Well, yeah,
he
I mean,
he seems like he would fit in so many places.
I
But
was conflicted when the Packers traded him away in the middle of last year. Ultimately, I think it was the right move because he was a progress stopper. They knew they weren't keeping him, and they wanted to work out some of their young guys.
yeah,
Unfortunately, all those young guys got hurt. Um,
which is
but
they have Devin King, right?
uh, wait, what?
They
Kevin King.
Kevin King. I did I say
He's
Devin?
he's a yeah, he's a corner though.
Yeah, I'm talking about their secondary. Their secondary is young.
Yeah,
Their two corners are Kevin King and that one guy that's really good.
my guy Jair
That
Alexander.
that guy is gonna be so
I
fucking good.
I
Uh,
got his
his tape is so pretty. Like,
my dad bought me his jersey as a Christmas present.
yeah, he's
Oh
God.
man, I love Jair. He's gonna be a shutdown corner in this league, and
He
I'm so
already
excited.
like basically seems to be like he doesn't get.
Yeah,
I think he had trouble. I think only against Adam Thielen all season long. I think that was the
yeah.
one.
I
And they
think
played
he got
against like the Steelers, right?
no,
They didn't. Yeah,
no.
I don't remember the Packers'
He
schedule.
did get he got burned, I think, or maybe it was somebody else by Josh Gordon against the Patriots
Yeah,
for a long
yeah, but
touchdown. But
Josh Gordon's actually good. He just
yeah,
it's really like funny thing about Josh Gordon is that he's actually really good.
yeah. But Jair had a great rookie season. I love him. They've got Kevin King, who I'm still undecided about. Josh Jackson looked really good as a third corner. Um, and who else do they have back there? Oh, they brought back Devon House. I don't know if they're keeping him. and they brought in, or actually, did they still have Devon House last year? I can't even remember. It's been so long since I've seen a meaningful Packer game, Bryce.
Yeah,
My Packers. Oh boy.
it's
But
it's a thing, man.
anyway, I love the addition of Adrian Amos to that secondary. He's a guy who I honestly think is an upgrade over Clinton Dix. Um,
Uh, it's
it's
weird for me
they're
because
both very good, but I like Adrian Amos. The few games that I saw of the Bears last year, he stood out. And I like him a lot.
to be fair, the Bears secondary, everyone on that secondary looks better than I think they would rather look because Eddie Jackson's on the field. Because
Mm,
Eddie Jackson is the best safety we've seen in the league in I don't know how long. He is
well,
undeniably scary
dude,
for anyone to play against.
prime Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he's just as good, if not better. And he's played for
Prime.
like 2 seasons, I think.
I mean, are you going back to Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu?
He's that good.
Wow.
He is. He
Okay.
is. He controls 70% of the field. He makes it so that his cornerbacks can play press on 95% of passes. That is unheard of in a 2019, 2018
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I
season.
mean, Eddie Jackson's very good, and maybe Amos was benefiting from that more than we know. Not
We
really
can
sure
never
yet.
know until next season, but I do believe that Amos is good. I don't know if he's good
Yeah.
as good as Clinton Dix, and I don't know if he's better, but I do
Yeah.
not think it's a bad pickup.
So the Packers made a few other moves, and interestingly, these are all long-term deals. Um, so Amos was a long-term deal. They also signed a couple of edge rushers, the Smith brothers. They're not actually brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Preston Smith, coming from Washington, and Zadarius Smith from Baltimore. Um, and again, both long-term deals, and I'm not quite sure how these players will work out. Um, it's a gamble with both of them for sure. But I like that the Packers front office is being aggressive for once. I mean, we finally moved out of the Ted Thompson age.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I think that any Packer fan could, like, who complained about their silence in free agency, is just like, oh my fucking god, finally.
yeah,
Holy,
I mean,
this is
I'm
such a turn of pace for them.
I I mean, I know a lot of Packer fans obviously. I know you do too. We live
Wow.
in Wisconsin.
What,
Um
really? Huh.
yeah, this whole time, Bryce, we oh boy. I'm
Dude,
so sorry.
literally, like, when I walk outside, I only see in shades of gold and yellow.
Hmm.
Gold and green.
Golden yellow. Yep.
Gold and yellow, the two colors of the Packers.
Should we change the name of this podcast to the Golden Yellow
No,
Podcast?
triple doink stays. Triple doink can't be beat. That is too good. When
Uh,
you said that in suggestions, I was so happy. I was like, finally, we got it.
yeah, it took forever to find a podcast name, by the way, that wasn't taken because it's hard to come up with like football related podcast names that
Which
aren't
is why you
taken.
have to make it unique.
Yep, and
You have to
Triple
make
Doink
it.
is certainly that.
And, triple doink. Oh, man.
So, anyway, back to the Packers. Bringing in these two edge rushers, it signifies that they're. I think they're trying to move on from a lot of McCarthy guys.
Yeah.
Um,
But,
so
like,
they already cut Nick Perry.
I really
Clay,
like that.
Clay
Mike
Matthews seems
Daniels
like
is
he's out
gonna
the
be
door.
so good with these guys.
Yeah,
Mike
Mike
Daniels,
Daniels.
I think, is the most valuable defensive line player that you could have right now based on draft value.
Mm.
Oh, because he's undrafted.
Well, I mean, last year there were pretty much three guys on the Packers defense that I thought were like playing at a really high level, and the rest of them,
Jair
some of them.
Alexander.
Yeah, it was Alexander, Mike Daniels, and Kyler Fackrell. Those were the three
Wait,
that were
you
playing.
wouldn't count well, Fackrell, yes. Isn't there another linebacker that was really good last year?
Nope.
Just nope.
Nope. The Packers were not a good team last year, Bryce.
There was
Granted, they were better
Fackrell
than your
was a
Jags.
surprise to say the least because I had never heard of him before.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard of him only because I followed the Packers very closely during the season.
Who is the
But
other linebacker on that team that I know of?
I mean, they had Nick Perry and Clay Matthews,
Well, yeah. I mean,
and it seems like Clay's going to be out the door now, which I think it's time.
it's
He's
been
never
time
really
for a few years.
yeah, quite a few. He's never gone back to the heights that he reached. He never really filled his full potential after those couple of great years.
Uh, it's always been one of those.
Yeah.
What could have been, and we found out what could have been. Nothing.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they're moving on from the Mike McCarthy era. There, they also signed an offensive lineman who's I don't know. The ATN guys were making fun of this signing a little bit. They signed Billy Turner from the Broncos and gave him a lot of money. I think he's making more than Le'Veon Bell.
Oh my.
But honestly, I don't mind the signing. It's like if you have the cap room to spare, the Packers need capable offensive linemen,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to find them. So I don't mind this signing.
I will
The
ask you
offensive
though.
line, the offensive line was a problem last year. That's why
It
they need
was.
just they need depth. They need capable
Who's been a
guys.
problem for 2 years?
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
that's people talk about Aaron Rodgers regressing, but I think a lot of that is due to the offensive line. He just hasn't had time.
yeah. I don't think that we've seen Rodgers being able to perform at a level that he usually has. And I believe that it's been a while since he's had the opportunities that he once did because
Yep.
they haven't focused. Because the Packers used to have the best offensive line in the league, and that was consistent for around half a decade. And that was because their blocking scheme was the trendsetter of the league. They were the Packers have always been the best when they were the trendsetters, which is why when Mike
Yeah.
McCarthy came in, they won a fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because the way he schemed on offense was completely different and revolutionary at the time, and that's why they were so dominant that year. Even though they
But
were a sixth seed, they still
as
looked
we've heard
dominant towards that end, and it showed in the fact that they won.
as we've heard hundreds of times though, it's a copycat league, and so
Yeah,
everybody caught on to the Packers scheme, and Mike McCarthy never adapted it at all. And that's
he
why he ultimately flamed out.
that if you're not gonna change, I mean, you're gonna get bit. Like you have to
Yeah.
evolve, or you're just gonna die out.
I just wish that we had what is going on over there?
I was getting a piece of gum.
I see.
Yeah.
Um it sounded like you were like chewing on tinfoil or something. Like
Remember, we're not professionals.
oh no, definitely not. Um but I really wish that the Packers had found a way to keep Andy Reid like all those years ago when he was our I think he was our was he the offensive coordinator or was he below that? I don't even remember, but I wish that we had kept him in house, but
Andy
whatever.
Reid is really good, and you say
And like
this, but
he's adapted his schemes over the years, and that's what has kept him
and he's
relevant.
never won.
No, but I think he's the only guy who like Bill Belichick can call like a peer, you know?
Yeah.
He's the only one. And like maybe given 10 years Sean McVay will be up there, but like right now it's just Belichick and Reed. They're on a whole nother level.
Sean McVay, if he's able to stay, yeah, all he needs is longevity now. He has the numbers. He has everything that that the other two have, except for the years in the league. It's really
Yeah.
impressive what Sean's been able to do. By the way, something that I forgot to mention when we talked about the Jets, their defensive core is fantastic,
Yeah.
and the fact
I
that they
like
could get Quinn and Williams,
that.
holy shit! They're gonna have C.J. Mosley and Leonard Williams and Avery Williamson
Yeah.
stopping the run,
Um,
and they could get Quinnen Williams in the draft. That's so scary.
okay, so one last thought on the Packers. I mentioned their free agency moves. They also are bringing back Mercedes Lewis for 1 year, which is, fine, whatever. I wouldn't mention it if it was another team, but because it's my team, I got to mention it.
I mean, they're
Um,
also, not cutting Jimmy G.
yeah, the other Jimmy G, Jimmy Graham, they're expected to bring him back, which I like. It
Really?
last
You
year was just a lost season. And Jimmy Graham,
any footage of I've had of Jimmy Graham on the Packers has been to laugh at how he blocks.
yeah, I mean, agreed, his blocking is horrible, but
It's the
he
worst in the
did
league.
he did make some plays in the passing game
Yeah,
that
just line him up outside. He'll be fine.
I just again, he was not a good fit with Mike McCarthy's vanilla offense. Hopefully Matt LaFleur can find a way to use him better.
Matt LaFleur should be good in Green Bay.
I
He's
I'm really
been
I'm
stranglehold by a look, the Titans getting Ryan Tannehill, I think shows that Matt LaFleur was not the problem. Like, I think Packer fans should relish in that move alone means it's going to be okay.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean I hope so. Here's going in when they first announced Matt LaFleur as head coach, this was my big concern with him was that all last year the Packers, one of their big problems is that Mike McCarthy, for some stupid reason, refused to put Aaron Jones on the field and um like insisted on giving Jamal Williams a bunch of carries first so that he could run into the line of scrimmage and fall down.
Yeah.
Um when clearly Aaron Jones is the best skill position
You
player
could go.
on your team other than Aaron Rodgers. And
Okay.
well, okay, Devontae Adams is pretty
Devontae
good too.
Adams is quite literally a top 5 receiver.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I forgot about Adams when I said that. But anyway, um the concern that I had with LaFleur was that in Tennessee it took until the last 4 weeks of the season for him to give the ball to Derek.
To Derrick Henry, yeah.
And again, it's like just give the ball to your best player. Like get him on the field and let him do things.
Yeah.
So I hopefully Matt LaFleur can learn from those mistakes and utilize Aaron Jones. But we'll see. I'm optimistic. I'm definitely glad to have McCarthy out of town. But that's enough about the Packers for now.
What I did want to mention now that we're on the Packers as well.
Okay, sure.
An ex-Packer who's now a free agent, Nelson.
Oh yeah, I
Where
did.
do you think he can land?
That was the last item on my list, actually.
I think it's a good transition here.
Well, yeah, we can talk about Jordy Nelson. So he got cut from the Raiders, which
surprised me. I thought Raiders, that they would be good in tandem, Nelson and Brown.
The Raiders acquired Antonio Brown and they brought in Tyrell Williams, and their whole goal was to get younger and faster at wide receiver, and Nelson doesn't fit that at all.
Yeah.
Jordy Nelson is
they gave him $3 million though.
My great fear is that the Packers front office is going to go get him and bring him back, and he's going to be a progress stopper. Because the Packers have some talented young receivers, but if they bring Jordy Nelson back in,
they're kind of trying
to force feed him. Rodgers will force feed him the ball, and then you'll never hear anything from Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Equanimous St. Brown.
God, the offense last year when you had those 3 wide receivers starting with Devontae Adams, that was a trip.
Oh yeah, it was. I feel like that's like the best trio of wide receiver names to ever play in the National Football League. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Equanimous St. Brown, and Geronimo Allison.
Oh man,
I don't think that there's ever
They
been a
just
better
sound all so cool, but they're all so underwhelming. Geronimo Allison should have been so much better this year.
Well, he got hurt.
Yeah.
So you can't entirely blame him. I've always liked Geronimo.
He should be a really good deep route runner, though.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm saying, like, we need to get Randall Cobb out. I think he is going to be out. They're not going to bring him back. And we need to stay away from Jordy Nelson. Rodgers is going to push to bring him back, and we need to not bring him back.
Yeah.
I honestly don't care where Nelson lands. I don't think he's going to make a big impact anywhere that he goes.
No, I don't either, but
the only place where he would make a big impact
Cardinals
is on the Packers, and he would make a big negative impact.
I think that Josh Rosen, I think the Cardinals should.
Yeah, the Cardinals might be a decent fit. It's good to have veteran receivers with.
You would have Jordy Nelson and Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh boy,
God, that'd be such a contrast. You have like Josh Rosen. I keep saying names wrong right now. Josh Rosen, and some of the oldest receivers in the league.
You mean Cardinals starting quarterback DeMar DeRozan?
DeMar DeRozan.
Never mind.
Josh Rosen.
DeMar DeRozan is a basketball player.
Yeah. You have the Bucks. Yay. See,
yeah,
I'm a Suns fan, so I never like basketball.
Yeah. The Suns beat the Bucks twice this year, though.
Yeah, that might be true, but like they also have like 2 total wins.
While we're on the Bucks, the Bucks had 2 great streaks going this year that the Suns snapped both of them in the same game. The Bucks had not lost 2 games in a row all season, and they had not lost to the same team twice all season, and the Suns broke both of those in the same game.
Did they beat them twice in a row?
No. They had lost the previous game. I think to who was that to? I don't even remember. I didn't watch either of those games. I was
I mean, to be fair, it's
doing
basketball,
stuff those
regular
nights.
season games, and I assumed that it was in like February or something.
It was just a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watch the Bucks when I can. They're really exciting this year, but this podcast is not about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have anything else to add about the Packers? Because I could talk about them all day.
I personally do not.
Okay.
And I think that it's good that you're talking about the Packers so in depth. Honestly, because when I look at the Jaguars and I think, man, I think they got an offensive lineman today. I think that's the big news.
Did they?
If I remember correctly, I believe that was the move that we made. I will go to the I'll just look at Twitter real quick to make sure that I'm getting this. Yeah, well, he got Chris Conley. I remember that.
Yep. AJ Can, is that the guy you're referring to?
I'm sorry?
AJ Can?
Or
no, it's the Cedric O'Buel.
Yeah, but it's like I don't really know enough about offensive lines to be like, yeah, good pickup, guys. It's
well, I mean, hopefully somebody in the building knows how to evaluate.
Yeah, I just assume that like good, and until I see him like just fall on the ground and like die, I have no way of knowing. Okay, so
other news items that I have here. There's still a bunch of them, but we can fly through these. Trey Flowers signed with the Lions.
Yeah.
Good signing for the Lions. I don't know.
Lions are still lost.
Yeah.
They got a running game.
Maybe.
Don't got a lot else.
Okay. The Texans tagged Jadeveon Clowney. Got to keep him around.
Oh yeah.
Good move, I think.
I think that's what you need to do.
the Colts signed Devin Funchess, and they're bringing back Margus Hunt and Pierre Desir on defense. All good moves, I think, for the Colts.
Yeah, Colts are. I think they just need to do. They have the pieces to repeat what they did last year. They just need to
Yeah, they just
actually.
need to add. They just need to add a couple to get over that hump. Devin Funchess is a good signing. He's not a great player, but they need somebody
They need
besides T.Y.
compliments, and
Hilton.
that's all they don't need like Antonio Brown, for example.
Yeah. Um, the Chiefs, they they cut Eric Berry and Justin Houston, and they've traded D Ford to the 49ers, and they brought in Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger.
Yeah.
Um, Now it's
Is it
obvious to
Matthew or
me
Matteo?
Matthew.
Hmm. I always have pronounced
Um,
it Matteo.
well, that's incorrect.
Hey,
Um,
okay.
um, so it's obvious that they needed to move on from these old veterans on their defense because their defense was bad last year. Um, it's a lot like the Packers, I think, where it's just like they need to get some of those old guys out of there and
Yeah.
bring in new players. And Tyrann Mathieu, I've always been really high on. He's a great player.
Yeah, I thought that he was really good in Houston, and I think that that is a fantastic pickup for a
Yeah.
team that is gonna be in trouble after this season because there have been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors right now that uh they're gonna give Patrick Mahomes $200 million.
Well, yeah, that's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, he's
And
going to get a big contract. He certainly has
the
earned it.
second that they give him a gigantic contract, I don't think they'll win a Super Bowl. They won't have the cap
Mm.
space, and they will be the example for the league of what not to do.
Well,
And
I disagree with you, but
I
I mean,
I think
you
he's
got to
really
keep.
good, but you can't pay that much.
If you have a
There's a
franchise
limit.
quarterback, you have to pay him. You have to keep him.
Yeah, but you
But
can't. There's a limit. There's a limit. You keep him, but you can't just exponentially just keep giving these quarterbacks money.
yeah. Um. Anyway, that's a topic for a later time. Um. It is kind of sad to see these guys out of Houston or out of Kansas City. Um. But it was time. So moving on from them. For now, the Chargers, they have acquired Thomas Davis from the Panthers. Don't know really what he brings. We'll see.
Yeah,
Um, and they also added Tyrod Taylor as a backup to Philip Rivers, which we mentioned earlier.
yeah.
Um,
Which I think is a fine backup. Didn't they have Geno Smith before?
yeah, I think they did.
Hell yeah.
And Tyrod is a capable quarterback. He's one of the better backups in the league for sure. Um, the Rams re-signed Dante Fowler, and they're bringing in Eric Weddle as a safety. So they're clearly not content with that one Super Bowl appearance. They're going to try to repeat that and get back there again. Um, so
Yeah.
I feel like both of those are solid moves. Eric Weddle, not really sure what he has left in the tank, but I mean, it can't be a bad thing to have a veteran leader in your
It's
secondary.
nice to see a franchise continue to be at least semi proactive despite being like kind of like seemingly flawless in that they just need to fix up like a few things it seems with coaching more than anything and like play and like the actual
Yeah.
preparation for a game.
Well,
And by for a
who
game I mean
knows?
for the Super Bowl, right? It seems as
And who
though
knows if Jared Goff is going to be all right? Honestly, that's my biggest concern with the
yeah, I
Rams
think
is
he's not good. I still think he's not good.
psychologically, what that game must have done to Jared Goff.
I
Ugh.
don't that for me. I've never been like yeah psychologically.
Um,
That's what I care about. I more
yeah, and
always care
here's
about
okay, but that's the same reason that you believe in Blake Bortles and I don't. Blake Bortles is broken physically and psychologically. Sorry, I'm right. But
Ouch.
anyway, we're not talking about Bortles right now. Who the Jags did cut, by the way. I didn't mention that. Um,
I saw. I know.
next item on my list, Anthony Barr was going to sign with the Jets and then instead decided to stay with Minnesota. I'm sure that the Vikings are happy to have him in the building. He's a good player.
I agree.
Um, Michael Bennett got traded to New England from Philadelphia. He's
Again,
still,
as New England usually does.
yeah. And Bennett, I mean, he's getting up there a little bit, but he obviously is still an impact player. He had a good year last year with the
He's going to have a
Eagles.
few solid seasons with New England, go to another team, and probably tank like most players do. The only player
Yeah.
that's broken this cycle has been LeGarrette Blunt, who tanked the following season. LeGarrette Blunt, the
um,
only New England Patriot to win a Super Bowl with the Patriots, and then the following year go to a different team and win.
yeah. Um, Teddy Bridgewater, we already mentioned, is staying with the Saints as Drew Brees is backup. Um, the Eagles, since we mentioned them a second ago, they brought back Brandon Graham. Definitely a good signing for them. He's an important player on their defense. And they traded for Deshaun Jackson and brought him back into town. That one really surprised me.
Deshaun Jackson coming back to Philly. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
always
that's going to
liked
be exciting.
I've always liked Deshaun
I
Jackson.
do. Yeah.
My one of my favorite plays that I've ever seen live was the Miracle at the Meadowlands Part 2 where
You
he
mean the
returned that
one where
punt.
he returns that kickoff after muffing it?
It
That
was
punt?
the punt that that was supposed to be like kicked out of bounds and instead was a line drive directly at Deshaun Jackson
Who muffs it? That
who muffs it and then recovers and returns it for a touchdown. That was amazing. Especially because I hate the
God,
Giants so much.
it's one of the craziest plays I've ever seen.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a good move for them. They needed a deep threat in that offense. And Deshaun Jackson proved last year with Fitzpatrick that he still can be that deep
You can
threat.
still do that.
So that's good. Carson Wentz should be happy to have him in town. Um,
God,
okay, so now on
Tampa,
to the
what a shit show.
49ers, who we predict will just crush everybody this year.
We have to
They
reiterate that, just like so when it happens, we get all the credit.
exactly. Um, and this is, I think, my last news item. I'll scroll through and make sure. But the 49ers have made a number of moves. Most notable additions, we already mentioned D Ford through trade.
Yeah.
They signed Quan Alexander, pass rusher. That's good. Um, and Jason Verrett, who I always thought, he was beat up, but when he was on the field, he was really, really good for the Chargers, cornerback.
I'm really glad that the 49ers are still being proactive, even though it's been one of the most frustrating, it has to be one of the most frustrating, disappointing
Yeah.
runs
I mean,
for them.
John Lynch has made some mistakes for sure in that front office, but to his credit, he hasn't stopped trying. Um,
He doesn't let adversary kick him in the teeth,
yeah,
feet, teeth, whatever. Doesn't let adversary
I
kick him
know
in
what.
general. He just gets knocked down and gets back up again. He's never gonna stay
Yeah,
knocked down.
he kicks adversity with his feet. Um,
Yes.
the other one that I'm very excited about for the 49ers is they signed Tevin Coleman. I was wondering where he
Yes.
would end, and he obviously we know what he can do in Kyle Shanahan's offense. The year that they made their Super Bowl run, Kyle Shanahan and Tevin Coleman had a great year that year.
I'm
Um,
very excited to see the 49ers next year and if they can do anything.
yeah, they'll be a fun team to watch. I think Tevin Coleman adds another element to that offense that they didn't have before. I'm excited to see what they do. They still could use an outside receiver, but I think they've got weapons. And I mean, what's his name? George Kittle,
Kittle is
great tight
so
end.
good.
Yeah, I love Kittle. Um, and I
Little
think that's
Kittle.
everything. That's everything that I have for news items.
I
Did you
think
have anything?
I did not have a list that expansive that
Okay,
covered the league as well as you did. I'm sorry.
good. Well, I figured, we haven't talked since the day after the Super Bowl, so I figured we got to cover all the stuff that's happened since then, and we didn't cover everything. I mean,
We covered
I could have,
all the things that mattered, clearly, because if we didn't cover them, then they didn't matter.
right. I mean, I could have mentioned the Chiefs bringing in Carlos Hyde, but I didn't.
Yeah, who cares? Oh, man.
But now I
Oh,
did.
what a fall from grace that guy's gone.
Um, or I could have mentioned what's another example of a middling player here? Oh, the Cowboys re-signed Tavon Austin. That's one that, that I could have.
Yeah.
That's one that I could have dwelled on, but I didn't. Okay, so are we ready to move on to talk about the AFC North now?
I think we are. And I have it prepared for me as I change the image on screen to the Bengals prediction.
Okay, so before we go any further, I know I said this earlier, but um, the day after the Super Bowl, Bryce and I went through the entire season and predicted every single game result. Um, and we're going to go through those. We're going to try to do one division podcast. And we're starting with the AFC North because they're I think the most interesting division right now.
They also
And
come
a lot
first in our spreadsheet.
that's true too. And they have had a lot happen to them recently, of course, with Brown leaving the Steelers and with Beckham coming to the Browns. So um, this is what we had projected for them. For the
Yeah.
Bengals, we had a 4-12 record for them. Um,
Now,
we
as a general rule of thumb, if a team is playing their divisional rival and we
oh
don't
yes,
know
good
who's going to
good to
take
mention.
the like quote unquote series of games, we just give a win to each of them in their home field. So,
Right.
for our sake, if they end up swapping that so that instead they both win away, we count those as we'll still say we were right there. It's just kind of a general rule of thumb that people are more likely to win at home than away, unless you're the
Yeah.
Chargers.
So for example, we had the Ravens and Bengals splitting, so we gave the Ravens a win in Baltimore and the Bengals a win in Cincinnati, but if it goes the other way, we're counting that as a correct prediction. Um okay, so the Bengals, their wins come against the Ravens. We have them beating the Jets. That's interesting. I as high as we were on the Jets, it doesn't seem
I
like we
think
would
that
have.
was just like a circumstantial thing where we just thought that randomly they just will win.
Yeah, and that is a home game for the Bengals. And then we have them winning at the Raiders because we have the Raiders being awful,
And the Cardinals.
and home against the Cardinals. Um, and then of course their losses, they get swept by the Browns in the division. They lose one to the Ravens, swept by the Steelers. They lose at home against the Patriots, Jaguars, who both of those teams were very high on, and then they lose on the road against the Bills and Dolphins. And then their non-conference schedule, I mentioned they beat the Cardinals. Um,
Yep.
and then we have them losing at home to the 49ers and on the road against the Rams and Seahawks.
So yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
think that the
I
only one that we in this moment have questions on would be the Jets and the fact that they win against the Ravens. If any
yeah,
questions, those are the only two. But
you mean the Raiders?
no, Ravens. That the fact that they win
Oh,
against the Ravens, I think people would be like, "What? Wait."
oh, I thought you meant the Raiders because I question that one too. Now that the Raiders have added some players and they look
No,
like they're not
no,
going
I
to
would
be.
still say that despite how ambitious the Raiders have been, that they will not. They're still not gonna be.
They're not
Uh,
going to be good, but I feel like they could beat a Bengals team at home now. Now
yeah,
with these additions, so
you
I
know, you're
mean,
right. That's possible. It's also possible that the Bengals be, a 1-15 team and actually
yeah,
take the torch that the Raiders were gonna take from the Cardinals.
I honestly feel like if we did these predictions again today, and this might be a fun way to go about this, is that if we did these predictions again, I think the Bengals would be 1-15. I think we would have them losing, or maybe 2-14. I think I would still give them wins against the Ravens and Cardinals, but I think they would lose to the Raiders and Jets if we did this again.
Yeah. It's a possibility that they are the worst team in the league now.
Yeah.
It's just they're not doing anything in off season.
I mean, they waited until almost the combine to get a defensive coordinator. So
it's not looking good in Cincy.
They couldn't find anybody who wanted to coach their defense. That's a problem.
Their defense has no one except for Vontaze Burfict. And Vontaze Burfict is Jesus
Vontaze
Christ.
Burfict?
Yeah. Like, does anyone want to try to coach that? No.
No, hell no. I want that guy as far away from my team as possible.
That home or like playing with them or against them.
Yeah. Okay, so should we move on to the Browns?
I believe that here. And I think it's on screen now. Yeah.
Okay, so the Browns. Now I did this in a really stupid way. I did this in a really stupid way with the Bengals just now, so I'm going to do this in a more streamlined way now. So in the division, we have the Browns sweeping the Bengals and Ravens and splitting with the Steelers.
Yes.
Their conference games, we have them winning all three at home and losing all three on the road. So we have them beating the Bills, Dolphins, and Titans at home and losing to the Patriots, Jets, and Broncos on the road.
That's just because they have a really hard road schedule.
They do.
They have to play against the Patriots and Jets, who I think we both have as playoff teams, and the Broncos in Mile High is always like a challenge for anybody.
Right. And then we have their non-conference games. We have them losing to the Rams at home.
Yeah.
And the 49ers on the road. And we have them beating the Seahawks at home and Cardinals on the road.
And I think the only thing we might change is the Steelers one.
Well, no, I still think here's the weird thing about this division, and we'll talk about it more on Steelers in a minute, but the Steelers and Ravens have always seemed to find a way to be at least decent, and the Browns have consistently found a way to be bad. So even though right now
survivor's bias.
I know.
I'm
sorry.
I get like really antsy with when people use like, well, historically, it's like, I mean, what part of history was it where Odell Beckham Jr. was in a Browns jersey? None.
No, you make a valid point. And by the way, the term is outcome bias.
Outcome? I say because it's the same as survivor's bias, though. It's the exact same logic, right?
Outcome bias is just a ridiculous term anyway. But
yeah.
Anyway, the point here is that the Steelers and Ravens have long tenured coaching staffs, and I trust Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh.
I don't know if I trust Mike Tomlin anymore.
I trust them to keep their teams relevant.
I trust them to keep his team as a unit, and I think they'll net wins that way, but I think the Browns will also stay. They will not be beating the Browns, is what I will say.
Well, and your argument is, where in history have the Browns had Odell Beckham? And that absolutely, you're right. But again, if you look at history, Mike Tomlin's teams have always been pretty good, and John Harbaugh's teams have always been pretty good. They weren't
pretty good last year.
Outside of a few seasons, those teams have been pretty good.
Well, then they're not always pretty good.
Well, and that's fair. They're not always good, but I still think that it'll be competitive. I don't think that the Browns are going to run away with this division. I think that they'll. I ultimately think they'll win the division, but I don't think they're going to run away with it. And I think that the
is
Steelers
an 11-5 division winner running away with it? Because I still wouldn't say that. Even if they sweep the division, I think the games will be close.
Okay, but
I still think it's more likely that they win all of them than lose one.
Put a pin in that for right now, because once we talk about the Ravens and Steelers results,
we'll
talk about that again. But other than their division games, do you have any other qualms about the Browns? I mean, I feel
They,
like these results are
I
pretty
think
solid.
that all the teams that they lose to outside of their division make sense, and all the teams they beat, even especially now with the Titans, like Jesus Christ, like
Yeah, it's
God, they
just the
had to play the
Browns.
Bills, Dolphins, and Titans. They're gonna be so untested with those, and the Cardinals. Holy crap!
The Browns, yeah,
Their
they
schedule,
were a
they get to play
very
the Bengals twice, and then they get
they
to play
were a,
4 duds.
they were a very easy team to figure out in terms of the schedule because all of their tough games are on the road and all of their easy games, except for the Cardinals, are at home.
Yeah, it feels as though they're not gonna have a good road record, and people are gonna use that in the playoffs, and then they're gonna realize that their road record is because they had to play against like nothing but playoff teams and the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, we have them in our predictions. We have them two and or no, sorry, we have them 3-5 on the road. We have them beating the Bengals, Ravens, and Cardinals on the
Yeah, and
and
if my Steelers prediction for is that the Browns beat the Steelers on the road, that becomes a 4-4 road team
yeah,
that starts out as like the third or
and they're
fourth
seven
seed.
and one. They're 7-1 at home, is the thing. Uh,
Yeah, so if they're
right. Where's their home loss? Sorry. Oh, their home
49,
loss is to the Rams.
the Rams,
The
yeah,
Rams.
and that makes sense. I can see them losing to the Rams.
Yeah.
Sean
So
McVay calling a scheme up that really just throws them out on a loop. But I can also see the Rams losing that just as easily.
yeah, I mean the dog pound is not an easy place to play anymore.
It's dude, those fans are every fan base wishes that they were as good as the Browns. All
Yeah,
right.
I know.
But no fan base in the world is as hungry as them.
No.
They're literally dogs that haven't been fed. Like they're literal dogs that have not been fed for decades. And you're asking them not to be loud and ferocious when they're finally good.
All right. Well, let's move on to the Ravens then. I'll
Yes.
give you a second to get that figured out.
Yeah, it's just time where I have. There it is.
Okay. So in the division, we have the Ravens getting swept by the Browns,
Hell yeah.
splitting with the splitting with the Bengals and Steelers.
Yep.
So 2-4 in division. Then we have them.
Honestly, I think we could chalk up. Never mind. I shouldn't talk while you're doing this. Honestly,
This was another one where, like the Browns, they have a good home record and a bad road record.
a lot of
They
teams will have that. I feel
they we have
that's
them
just
beating the Bills, Dolphins, and Texans at home,
which
and
makes
then
sense.
losing at Patriots, Jets, and Chiefs.
Yeah,
And again, that was just an easy prediction because we're high on those three teams that they're playing on the road and low on the teams that they're.
and then the non-conference one, they get to play the NFC West, and the NFC West
Yeah.
has teams that look really good,
So they beat the Cardinals at home, and then they
and then
lose
one
at
that
home
looks really bad.
49ers
Yeah,
and at Rams and Seahawks.
it does look
Um,
like. I mean, I think they might just sweep the Bengals if I were to like change anything.
well, yeah, I think we had to give the Bengals a win though. Um,
It's just can the Bengals with a defensive like can their
can they win a
defense
game?
like actually do anything
Yeah.
against this? I don't think they match up well against the Ravens at all. That's my
Um,
problem is that they don't match up well.
yeah. And if we did this again, I might push for the Ravens beating the 49ers at home because I think that, like I said earlier, I
Based on
think
the
the
updates
Ravens.
that the upgrades that are getting added to the 49ers, no.
Well, I still think that the Ravens defense is going to be good. They're still going to have a good running game, we think.
What
And
really
I
matters is if the Ravens are able to have 60 to 70% of the ball control. If they have the 60% of
Yeah.
the time in the game, they have the ball, then I think they can win, but I don't know if they can do that against the 49ers.
Yeah.
And even
Well,
then, I
anyway.
think Jimmy G will always be able to run the ball down the field. It's not going to be a high scoring game because they're going to try to run out the clock, right? From like minute one.
Hmm.
But it'll be one of those games where it's weird that it's close because it looks like that whenever the 49ers get the ball, they just score, right? That's what I think is going to happen. That the Niners will just score like right away, and the like Ravens will just do all these schemes and all these weird play calls and go for it on fourth down and just like claw their way into it. But they'll be like holding on.
Mm. Well, and it's interesting too. Looking at the Ravens, we have them 6-2 at home, and they finished 6-10.
Yeah, they don't win a single away game, which is why I'm like, they can beat the Bengals.
Yeah. Um. Okay. So, are you ready to move on to the Steelers then?
I think I am.
Okay, let's go to the Steelers. So, the Steelers, we have splitting the Browns and Ravens and sweeping the Bengals. And then we have out of conference, they beat the Bills and Dolphins at home, lose to the Colts at home. They lose to the Patriots on the road and beat the Jets and Chargers on the road. And then out of conference, we have them beating the Seahawks at home, losing to the Rams at home, and losing to the Niners and Cardinals on the road. And I think that loss to the Cardinals was that whole every Mike Tomlin team has one random road loss to a horrible team, and we
Every
had to.
Mike Tomlin team will randomly lose because they lose.
This past year, it was their loss to the Raiders, which was just an insanely wild game where they just went on the road and lost to a team they had no business losing to.
Yeah.
Um, the year before, I think they went and lost to the Bears in Chicago, which was a horrible loss.
They've done it a lot, and if any team's gonna do it, the Cardinals with Josh Rosen. Oh, they
Or Kyler Murray, maybe Kyler Murray.
honestly, Kyle. I mean, both those quarterbacks. People give flack to Josh Rosen. He's good. He has this weird tendency he's growing. When it comes to out routes, and that's very, very specific to talk about. But watching his film, he does this weird thing where he hesitates on throws that he's done so mechanically throughout his entire quarterback like career, and now he's just like randomly hesitating, and it's making it so these balls become really dangerous.
Mm. Yeah, I haven't really dug into the film
Nitty
on
gritty,
Josh
yeah,
Rosen. Um,
I understand that,
so
but
anyway, are there any Steelers picks that you would change um, looking at it now versus when we made these?
um, I mean, I think that that the Steelers are one of those teams that are kind of like when predicting, they're prediction killers.
Yeah, I
You have
honestly I
to
think the
predict them
Steelers and
fucking up, and you have
Ravens,
to predict them like fucking other people up.
the
And
Steelers
when
and
they play
Ravens
the
are both
Jets,
that
that
way.
Le'Veon Bell is gonna be so fucking hyped.
Yeah, and I know we mentioned this, but we had Le'Veon Bell going to the Colts, so we did not have the vengeance factor programmed into our prediction.
Yeah,
I would probably change that now that
I
he's
think the
there, just
Jets
because
will win that game.
the Jets are going to feed Bell, and he's just going to go off in that game.
Dude, I want to see Le'Veon Bell get 300 yards on the ground.
Yeah,
Just
it could
that
happen, honestly.
it's will it happen? Probably not. No, but could it happen?
Yeah, it
Probably
could.
not. But we can dream. The
Yeah,
narratives can be written. They can just as
yeah.
easily be torn.
So, yeah, I mean, I might change that Jets prediction. Um, but the other one seems solid to me. And like you said, the Steelers are prediction killers, and I think that the Ravens are too this year. Because it's just hard to figure out these
Steelers
teams.
way more so though, because I don't know what the hell well they're gonna do, dude.
Yeah, and honestly, the Browns, I mean, the Browns could end up being a disaster, as we mentioned at the very top. Like, this Odell Beckham trade
In
could
all
just
honesty, I don't
horribly
see
flame
a
out.
way. People are like, well, he's a child. He's too emotional. No. He didn't like Eli Manning. He liked having a
Here's the thing.
quarterback that threw to him.
When you have a team that has a lot of personalities, like the Browns now have with Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry,
Eh.
it's fine if you're winning. It all works out great if you're winning. Um, But if you start losing, things go south. And I will point to the Bengals team that had Chad Ochocinco and Terrell Owens and started losing, and just the locker room was a disaster. It was awful. And I think that the Browns, if things start going poorly, could end up in a similar situation
You
where
could
it's
even
just.
go as recent as last year and look at teams like the Steelers and the Jaguars. Like both
Yeah,
of those
I
teams
suppose.
were just locker room disasters.
Yeah.
And
The
it pains
Steelers.
me to say that I'm the type of person who really doesn't believe in that type of shit usually. I believe but when you literally have Leonard Fournette punching a guy on the field,
Yeah. Yeah,
oh
I
man,
mean,
he's gonna get drug tested one day, and like the only reason why I did that is I have no doubt in my mind that he's on steroids in some respect.
mm,
Like there's no reason that you should do that on the field. I don't care like the emotions of the field or like all that adrenaline running through you. You don't do that type of shit based on like what football. You don't do that unless if there's some extra factor involved. I
yeah.
don't think.
I don't like to speculate like that, but
I
it
don't. I mean,
wouldn't
I don't either.
surprise
But it's
me.
my team, and I can do whatever I want, man.
Yeah, that's fine.
When
Um,
I see that shit, I get really mad.
hmm. So
God.
yeah, you're right. I was reaching way too far back for an example there when I just needed to look at last year. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, if the Browns get off to a poor start and lose and start losing early, I think that it could very quickly turn very toxic. But despite that, I don't think it will happen, but it definitely could.
Yeah.
So,
I
to
mean,
reiterate our end results, we have the Steelers going 9-7 in our predictions.
yeah.
The Ravens 6-10, the Browns 10-6, and the Bengals 4-12, which means the Browns win the division, edging the Steelers by one game.
And I think that it could very well be a wider spread.
Yeah,
There's no reason to think that the Browns do not beat teams away and just like surprise everyone and as like this Titan type team.
yeah. You never know. It's
Not
like
like the Titans, but like a Titan, as in the rhetorical sense. Please do not compare the Browns to the Tennessee Titans in any regard. That is unfair, and I'm very apologetic to any Cleveland fan.
well, and the Patriots are another one of those teams that like they always seem to have a random early season loss, and
Yeah,
you never know if the schedule makers decide to make that Browns game in week 2, maybe they upset the Patriots on the road. You never know.
the Patriots will not, will most likely not do well in September and then make
Yeah,
the playoffs. But this year might
I
be
mean,
one of those
just like they
years
always do.
where their woes in September result in them being second in their division.
Well, and I think if when we eventually get to that division and talk about the Patriots, I
Which
think
is,
we
I
did
think,
program.
is it 2 episodes away? It is.
Yeah, it is.
Because the next
Yep.
division is my division.
Yep, your division, the AFC South. But yeah, what I was saying is when we eventually get to the Patriots, I believe that you and I did program in a loss. I just don't remember who it was to. In fact, I can skip ahead to the Patriots and check really quick.
We can cheat. It's our podcast, damn it.
Yeah, their losses we had given them were
Jets,
at
Chiefs,
Jets.
and Eagles.
Yeah. So I think the Jets must have been that like random loss that we
No,
threw in there.
I don't think there is a random loss. We just think that there will be a random loss.
Yeah, I really thought we programmed one in, but maybe I'm
I
wrong.
think that because of how scheduling works, it's the Eagles.
Could be.
Because
But we were high on the Eagles. But
we're pretty high on the Eagles, yeah, but
that's a topic for a later date.
yeah.
Those teams are not
We can do a little, sneak peeking.
sure,
I'm
but
not showing
let's
anything on screen. They don't get to see. We could be talking out our ass, Who knows?
yeah, we could be making this up right now.
Yeah.
Um
We never made a spreadsheet. This is all someone else's. What do you mean?
mhm. So yeah, like Bryce said, next time we will talk about the AFC South. We have the Browns champions in the North.
Oh man. That feels so good to say. I'm
Yeah.
so glad we predicted that, dude. It keeps looking better and better every day.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
All right. So I guess that's it.
appears as though it's time to wrap up.
Well, was there anything else you wanted to talk about? Not necessarily even football related.
Well, we could do that thing I suggested where we each suggest a certain album. Now, I know a lot of podcasts do this. This isn't just like some grandiose thing that I'm just coming up with. It's not some epiphany I've had. People do this all the time where they just suggest music to each other and then they come back and ask what they thought.
Okay, so it's kind of funny that you bring this up. So I mentioned that this podcast where it's just kind of like us, we're two friends just talking about stuff, mainly football. Um we're kind of modeled somewhat after another podcast that I
I mean,
like.
we're modeled after the podcast archetype that you commonly watch that mimics that of, I think,
Yes.
yeah.
But specifically, I'm referring to the Jesselnick and Rosenthal Vanity Project, JRVP, Junior Vice President.
Yeah,
Um,
whisper it.
that's what they do on the show.
That's what
You
they
have
do.
to
I don't watch.
if you say the title, if you say Jesselnick and Rosenthal Vanity Project, you have to whisper JRVP, and then you have to say Junior Vice President, and ideally you have somebody else say Junior Vice President for you. So next time you have to be there for me. Uh,
What?
that's how it works. Um, and note that that podcast is not the same as the predecessor, the Rosenthal and Jesselnick Vanity Project, RJVP, which was the one that they started and then abandoned and then started a new one. But anyway, they have
The lore runs deep.
yes, it does. You really should get on board with that podcast. You'd like it.
You see, I watch quite a bit of podcasts, and I struggle to keep up with them already. That's why I
I
don't
know.
dedicate myself to more.
I know, but I mean, we all have limits on our time. But anyway,
of course.
What was I even saying about them? Oh yeah, at the end of their podcast, they do what they call a recommendation station, which is where they basically just recommend something, whether it's music or book or show or movie or whatever. So this is kind of like that, except I have nothing to recommend to you at all because
no music at all. Nothing.
Well, okay. The thing is, anything that I recommend, you would have already heard.
Try me. Just try. All right.
Okay, give me a minute. If you do you have anything else you want to talk about, like besides this, that
anything
we can waste time with while I think of something?
I don't have anything of importance to talk about, unless if we really want to get into Josh Rosen.
I don't at this time. Like I said, let's wait until something happens with him.
All right. I'm gonna
aside from deleting pictures from his Instagram.
Current prediction on the left side of the screen right now.
What is your current prediction?
I'll show you when you come up with yours. Damn.
Wait, what?
You need to come up with one, or else I'm not showing you a prediction.
A prediction of what?
Prediction, recommendation.
Oh.
Did I say predictions?
Oh.
Wow.
You did the last few times. Yeah, that's why I was so
Yeah,
confused.
man, I misspeak
Okay,
quite frequently.
give me a second. I've got an idea. I just have to look at the name of it.
All right.
Vamp.
I'm sorry.
You need to vamp while I'm doing this.
Vamp? Does vamp mean fill in the empty space with certain
Yes,
words and phrases?
so that people are not listening to silence. You see.
That is very true. All right. So, currently, if you have any other interests that are not football related, uh, it appears to me that Ryan is quite into two things, one being chess and the other being other sports that are in the Wisconsin area. So,
Other sports. I love how broad that is.
I mean, listen, I'm sure that if the Wisconsin curling team was the best in the world, you would in
I
some way, shape, or form know and follow.
I give I have no consideration for curling at all.
You say this now, but when was the last time you heard of the
No,
Wisconsin curling team?
that's I. Oh boy,
You see?
I don't think I would get into curling even if the local curling team was really
All
like
right. You I'll
I
hold
only
you to that. I'll hold you to that.
I really only follow football, baseball, and basketball, and I honestly only follow baseball and basketball when the Brewers and Bucks are good.
Which they have been.
They have been recently, yeah. The Brewers went to the NLCS last year. The Bucks are first place in the NBA right now. So yeah,
It
it's
appears
a fun time.
Wisconsin, when the Packers do bad, Wisconsin does good.
Yeah, honestly, like because Christian Yelich won the National League MVP, the Brewers outfielder, and Giannis looks like he's on pace to be the NBA MVP. And if you told me that like in back-to-back seasons or like in one year, even though it's not a calendar year, but in one year the Wisconsin would have two MVPs
Not
and
named Aaron Rodgers.
neither would be Aaron Rodgers, I would be shocked. That's I mean honestly,
But
that's
hey,
just insane.
a lot of money's coming in. It's really weird.
Yeah.
But
Well, and
yeah,
it like Giannis keeps trying to recruit like big time players from other teams to come play for the Bucks and he keeps getting hit with tampering fines. Um but I
yeah,
mean maybe some of them actually will. You never
I'd
know.
rather have a player do that, honestly, than not. Because funnily enough, one of my interests is League of Legends, specifically professional League of Legends. So yeah, I instead of following like another sport, I decide to follow Asians playing video games that I can't speak their language. They can't speak my language. I'll never meet them. They play halfway across the globe and when I'm asleep, but I follow them religiously. Why? Good question. Uh but what happened funnily enough in Europe is literal tampering where the best player in Europe and the second best player in Europe went to the exact same team and play. It's like if two quarterbacks, the first and second best quarterback, both went to the exact same team.
So Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, of course. But one of them role swapped to wide receiver
I could see Baker doing that.
and then became a top 3 wide receiver.
Well, remember when Terrell Pryor switched to wide
You
receiver
see,
and was like
I
really
think
good?
that's a little different. The guy literally played wide receiver.
But he was a quarterback before that, and then he was like a
Yes.
really good wide receiver. He put up really good numbers in a season where the Browns, I think, went 1-15.
Yep. No more will those stories be told.
Yeah, I hope not. I really do, because like especially listening to around the NFL for as long as I have, like I want the Browns to do well for Sessler. Like I really like I'll never be a Browns fan because the Packers are my team, but I am rooting for the Browns to do well because I would be genuinely happy for Sessler and all the other Browns fans out there.
Yeah, and like we're more rooting for the idea of the Browns doing well.
Yeah, like and
We want our teams to do better than the Browns. Always. We want them to do
some
better than every other team. But there's
like there's a
the
lot of
narrative
there's
of
a lot of
them is just too
excitement.
good.
There's a lot of excitement around the Browns right now, and understandably with them acquiring Odell Beckham. But a lot of Browns fans have gone out and been like, not they're essentially taking aim at the bandwagoners and being like, none of you are real Browns fans. We
Don't
were
do
here
that.
for three, and like I understand how they feel,
Yeah,
but
but don't
like
do that.
I'm not a bandwagon Browns fan. But if the Packers suck again and the Browns are good, I'm absolutely going to be rooting for the Browns this year.
Yeah.
Like, and even if the Packers are good, they're in opposite conferences. They don't play each other this year. I might as well root for the Browns anyway.
I will root for
You
the
know?
Browns as long as they don't play the Jaguars, and as long as their
Yeah.
outcomes do not impact the Jaguars' AFC playoff
Yeah. I mean,
implications. That's all that matters to
I
me.
always root for the Packers and their interests first, but then I always every year I have a few teams that I really like that I root for so long as them winning does not impact the Packers too much. And
Yeah.
this year the Browns are definitely a candidate to be high on that list.
Yeah. Did have you by the way thought of anything?
I have. Um
You can just give
do
me
you
the
want
title so I
do you
can
want
put
me
it
to
on.
go first
Yeah,
or
because I want to put it on screen.
okay. So here's the thing. Recently for some reason I've I don't know why this is, but I heard uh an old song by Paramore that I hadn't heard in,
Oh,
and it inspired me to like go through and listen to all of their songs, like their entire
yeah,
discography.
their most recent album was really good. I think it came out in 2016, and
Uh
I gave it like an 8.
yeah.
I thought that it was a really nice, the one with Hard Times on it. That one's actually a really good album. Uh, as much as I kind of have a certain woes about that music scene, I do believe Paramore is one of the better bands. And
Yeah.
if you're gonna suggest Crush, 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 I'm really excited to listen to that again since I haven't listened
um
to that since middle school.
no, I wasn't going to suggest Riot, which was that album. They're
Yeah,
the one that
I
had
know.
that song on it. I was going to suggest the follow-up to that, Brand New Eyes,
Yeah, that's the
which
one with Brick by Boring Brick and
yeah, I believe so.
yeah.
Um yep. But yeah,
I'm gonna man, you're gonna be exploring some of the what is it called again? I've never listened to that album front to back.
wait, what?
I never listened to that album front to back. What is
Oh,
it called again?
the name of it, Brand New Eyes.
Brand New Eyes. I bet yeah, it comes up. Yeah. I would have actually been surprised.
Yeah.
Uh however, I might have because I have a lot of music friends. I'll keep this on, but they're going to ask me cuz we post charts about what you can do with Spotify is that you can connect it to something called Last FM, and we have a Discord bot that turns your most listened to albums, songs, or artists for the week into a chart that's like a grid. And I think that's one of the coolest things,
Hmm.
honestly. I really like doing that, and I like looking at my charts and my friends' charts. And what we do a lot is that if it's a good chart, we post a W, and if it's a bad chart, we post an L.
What does that stand for?
I wonder, yeah. Uh, but yeah, as you've suggested, "Brand New Eyes" by Paramore, I am gonna go off and suggest a band you've never heard of.
Okay.
Uh, but the album's quite short. Uh, it's quite punky, and it's gonna be kind of in the same vein. It's a folk punk band called Andrew Jackson Jihad, but on Spotify you're gonna find them as AJJ. Uh, and the album is "People That Can Eat People Are the Luckiest People in the World."
That's the name of the album.
That is the name of the album. People who can eat people are the luckiest people in the world. I quite like. I really like this folk punk band. They have a lot of replayability, and the tension and anxiety that the vocalist has in his voice constantly, alongside his chaotic guitar strumming, the upright bass, and the mandolin, which is in their instrumentation constantly throughout this album. Uh, the themes that go across, and especially the closing track, is everything falls into place really nicely. And I think based on what you like, you'll really enjoy this album.
Okay.
I hope.
Well, I'll definitely give it a shot.
And I don't
So
think we should give our opinion until the next podcast. So in private, we can't discuss them.
yeah, that's fine. And we'll have to wait until the very end of the next podcast, so you'll like be just burning on the inside, waiting for me to tell you. Like through the entire thing, you'll be like, "Oh God, what did he think of it?"
I definitely will. I know for a fact that I'm gonna be waiting a long time, and it will make it so that I have. You see, the thing that happened in our last podcast is that I really didn't care that much for
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. I cared about Game of Thrones as it being something where I watch
By
it
the
with
way,
my family and it's a fun time. But I don't
for
have
the
a lot of
listener,
strong opinions on. I have so many more strong opinions on football, dude.
for the listener, what Bryce is referring to is a podcast that we tried to start last summer that was called Doctors and Dragons, in which he was going to watch my favorite show, Doctor Who, and I was going to watch his favorite show, Game of Thrones, and it failed because Bryce lost interest.
Because I didn't. It's not my favorite show. It was a show I liked.
Okay, fine.
That
A
was the
show you
thing.
liked.
And I didn't have a lot of strong opinions on Game of Thrones, and watching two shows that one show I've watched multiple times because we keep every single family member once eventually gets to an age where they want to watch Game of Thrones with us, so we have to watch it all over again, and that's fun because we're with the family and it's a fun time. But watching it on my own after watching it all the time, I'm like, there's no motivation for this, man. It got to the point where I was watching episodes on 2x speed.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, when I'm like that, I know that this isn't going to go well. I'm not really enjoying it. However, with football, there's always something new. There's always like something to rekindle like any fire that I want for it. It's really competitive, kind of in the name. There's a lot.
I agree. I agree with you that I think this podcast has a better shot than our last one to be like something we actually keep doing because it's something that we actually both like.
A lot. But it's not that we both just like it. We're both passionate about it. I think that's the big thing. You can have an interest in something, but I think you have to have a passion for it in order for it to be like a podcast.
Kind of like you with chess.
Yeah.
I would love to like
like if
I just had a crazy idea, but I would love to like record like well, we'd have to find some client that could do this, but I would love to record us just doing a bunch of analysis of chess games and like just make that a thing. But I know you would lose interest in that so quickly.
The thing is, I would only like to review like bullet games. Because we could just zoom through. We had to wait for like 30 minutes on a single move. That's the biggest thing when you're spectating
but like
chess.
We could play a bunch of games in advance and then go over them, like games against each other, against other people, or whatever. But I mean, that's a stupid idea anyway. We shouldn't do it.
I don't think it's stupid. I just think that
let's get this idea to work first, and then we can.
Of course. All right, so I think we're gonna sign this off now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's been Tom Brady. I've been Bill Belichick.
Is that... and